All right, go for it.
Hey, what's up, everyone? It's V, the Grill Economist, coming to you live on this edition of Mornings with V and CJ over here at RogueNews.com. You can follow us on Twitter at Real Rogue News. You can also check us out on Facebook, DTube, Steam, every single podcasting app known to humanity. You could also check out our sponsors, okay, that help keep the things running over here. You can check out mycbdedibles.com, mycbdedibles.com. Folks, listen, here's the deal. This week, you pump up, you go there, you start, getting your shopping list together. You're getting some coffee, some granola bars. Get some of those the almond pecan. Um, what is that? The almond pecan. See, this is where I go
Right,
brain dead.
white. Yeah, the white chocolate pecan truffles.
That's it. The
Yeah,
white chocolate pecan truffle, which is
yeah,
so freaking good, man.
oh yeah, rave reviews on this. Everyone loves them.
Everybody loves that one, man. Hell, you can't even get the doggy treats for your dog. You type in right now whatever purchase you want to buy. You type in Rogue at the checkout, you're going to get a 30% discount. 30% off. It's massive, folks. Absolutely massive. For 99.99% CBD isolate, it's the way to go. mycbdedibles.com. All sorts of deliciousness. Get it now, get it today. Secondly, folks, we have also the Crypto School. Yesterday the guys were on, Z and Cowboy and Frank and myself. Go to the Crypto School. You can either watch us trade. Okay, that is the trading Slack chat room over there. They show you exactly how to get it done. CJ, do you know of any program where you literally copy the moves that the instructor is doing and then you make money?
No, I don't think it exists. No.
Exactly, dude. This is literally a money machine. And folks, you have an option of getting involved in this money machine by either doing two things. Either A, you could pay month to month, or you can go ahead and pay for it via crypto payments. We are accepting 3-month and 6-month subscriptions paid in BTC. And here's the deal, folks. Most people pay their memberships. Their 1 month, 3-month, or even a year's worth within just a few days of trading. Also, guys, check out also the regular Crypto School video education series, where if you want to learn about cryptos, there's the video education series. You can go through the whole entire thing, learns the ins and outs, and once you're ready to get that done and you're ready to jump into some trades, you can do that. And last but not least, remaincom.net. If you have any collections issues and whatnot, go over there, check it out. And also, folks, liquidbase.io. Liquidbase.io. Take your crypto profits, liquidate it. You can put it into metals. You can put it in cash. You can store it in gold, whatever the heck you want to do. With complete vaultability, fully insured and bonded, with full liquidity. Full liquidity, folks. That is what is up. Liquidbase, where liquidity is the product. Go through the site, check it out. And all the links are in the description box. Now, with that being said, a couple of announcements today. Harley can't do today our usual time at 12 o'clock, so we're going to do him tomorrow. So Harley will be on tomorrow for hanging with Harley, so sit tight with that. Yesterday, folks, I was a little under the weather. Not under the weather. I wasn't feeling good, man. I just felt nauseous, lightheaded, and whatnot, and all the physiological changes that go along with I guess it's the weather, it's working out, it's all this other stuff. But anyway, one of the things I want to do at some point today, and I got some meetings I got to run to, but at some point today, there's a topics that I was going to discuss yesterday that I will be discussing, not today, this morning, but later today at some point. And I'm going to really blow the lid off, and I really want people to understand what I mean by this, in the full context of everything. I'm going to do a complete expose on Silicon Valley, and I'm going to show you because when you really study Silicon Valley, and that's silly spelled SILLY -CON, Silicon, not Silicon Valley, but Silicon Valley, because that's what most of the guys in Silicon Valley are. They're a bunch of silicons. And one of the things, folks, that I want to, there's a lot of things to be learned there at Silicon Valley, and how it pertains to the U.S. economy, how it pertains to the stock market in particular, where nothing makes sense. I want to show you folks that when you run through the entire gambit of what is out there as quote unquote profitable companies and the stock shares are so high, when you run that gambit, you begin to rapidly understand that, hey, you know what? Fundamentals and truth and facts need not apply. We're living in an economic fantasy world. Okay. The realities of this fantasy world cannot be sustained for long because you could only ignore the rules and the laws of economic Mother Nature before she rips you a new one. Now, the maestros, folks, the quote unquote the initiates, the wizards of Oz that are in Wall Street might have duped themselves into thinking that they themselves have discovered the philosopher's stone. They found a way to perpetually turn straw into gold. They have found a way to perpetually inflate and inflate and inflate and having a constantly ascending trajectory on a stock market with finite resources and with complete ignorance of economic laws, economic Mother Nature, to be in general, the fundamentals, the things that really matter. And they don't. They truly, truly don't. And that's one of the things I want to touch base upon. Hopefully, I get to do it today. We'll see how it goes. Then we have Cuss with Gus. So, see, you got to get a hold of Cuss. Get a hold of Gus before he flies somewhere or gets himself in an appointment somewhere or whatever. Before so we have him on at 4:00. But anyway, man, I mean, where do we start? I think here's a topic, folks. Here's a topic that I want to discuss. Okay, there's a lot of good things happening, positive things that are happening in Africa, and there's a lot of stupid stuff happening in Africa as well. Okay, a lot of stupid stuff. And I think this week's Stupid Nation of the Week award goes to South Africa. They've been working extremely hard, being dumbasses on the global stage. They've been doing an exemplary job of climbing the ranks of total complete morons. Okay, and not only morons, but downright damned evil. All right, it was a few years after Mandela died. The ANC, the African National Communists, I like to call them that. They're not the National Congress. The African National Communists wanted to create and enact Mandela's vision of a rainbow nation, and we will show them the way. But what has occurred, folks, is not a rainbow nation. It is outright genocide that is happening. Now, there's a whole bunch of people that have done reports, like people like Lauren Southern, the young lady who went over to South Africa to interview the farmers. If you don't know what's happening in South Africa, I suggest you give yourself a run up very quickly. What's happening is that the white farmers who've been operating these farmlands and owning these farmlands for 9 or 10 generations are now having their land ripped from them without compensation and given to quote unquote the locals, and allowing the local yokels to run the show. Okay, now some of these people who don't understand, okay, who do not understand, okay, the history of South Africa. Okay, well, some people will listen to this whole entire thing and say, hey, you know what? South Africa is just a racist country, and have a knee-jerk reaction. Okay, so now they've made it official, folks. South Africa is to amend the constitution to allow land expropriation from white farmers, confirming long-running speculation that South Africa is on its way to become another Zimbabwe. Because what did Robert Mugabe do? He kicked out all the quote unquote white farmers and told the blacks to go ahead and run it. And the whole country starved to death. Okay. You can't tell people who don't know how to farm, who don't know horticulture, who don't know how crop rotations, who don't know the intricacies of being an actual real farmer where you're growing multiple crops. Anybody could grow one thing seasonally. That's not hard to do. But growing multiple different types of crops in rotation is a mastery. It requires some experience, some know-how, things that the local yokels in Zimbabwe lacked severely. And the nation's food prices skyrocketed and most people started going hungry. So South Africa is doing the same thing. Okay. On Tuesday, the country's president, Cyril Ramaphosa, said the ruling African National Congress should initiate a parliamentary process to amend the constitution to allow for the expropriation of land without compensation. Back in May, the ANC had said in May that it would test the argument, quote unquote, that land redistribution without compensation is permitted under current laws. A plan that would have avoided the risky strategy of trying to change the constitution. Since then, the expropriation movement has only accelerated. And Ramaphosa, who has vowed to show them the way, also vowed previously to return the lands owned by white farmers since the 1600s to the country's black population. After he assumed office in February this year, said on Tuesday that the ANC would introduce a constitutional amendment in the parliament. The ANC will, through the parliamentary process, finalize a proposed amendment to the Constitution that outlines more clearly the conditions under the expropriation of land without compensation can be effected, blah, 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 blah. All right, Siege.
Break it down, V.
All right. Now, I'm going to rant and rave, and I'm going to drop some serious truth bombs that most people have no freaking clue about. You know, I have quite a few experiences in doing business in South Africa, and I am friends with South Africans. Amazing, wonderful people. Okay, and a lot of friends of mine are Afrikaners. They're the descendants of the Dutch that wound up in South Africa. Let's take this bullshit lie for where this bullshit lie starts. Okay, I'm going to give all of you a lesson on South Africa. It's going to blow your mind, and for most of you, it's going to be a deprogramming that you needed, and for the most of you, also, it's going to be an education that no one's ever told you. Here's BS lie number one. Okay, Cyril Ramaphosa, the racist, sycophant, idiot, tyrant, bastard of a low IQ subhuman. He said this. He's vowed to return the lands owned by white farmers since the 1600s to the country's black population. CJ, the black population that is living in South Africa, the vast 99 some odd % of the black population living in South Africa have no historical ties to that land. Boom. That is the myth. The myth is that the whites have stolen the land. They've stolen the land from the indigenous blacks, and injustice was done. Blah 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 blah. You see the vicious lies that these liberals do. See, liberals destroy cities. Liberals, far leftists destroy cities. They destroy towns. They destroy villages. They destroy states, and they destroy countries. See, the globalist agenda is an anti-white agenda. And the reason why it's anti-white, it's because it's anti-Western. Because whites are synonymously connected with Western culture. It is one and the same. Folks, slavery has existed long before Western civilization even came into being. Nobody talks about the tens of millions of slaves that were in China during the time of slavery here in the United States and in the Western world. Nobody talks about the tens of millions of slaves that were in India at that time and much of Southeast Asia. People have been slaves all over the place. You know, people want to talk about American slavery and slavery in America. Oh my God, it was the only place that happened on planet Earth. And before that, no other slavery ever happened. How many slaves, CJ, do we know how many slaves came into the United States? Do we know the exact number? Yes, we do. Why do we know the exact number? Because it was called a slave trade. Slave trade. Meaning when the slaving ships pulled up into port in Western Africa, the quote-unquote evil white man didn't get out of that ship and go running through the African continent trying to find black slaves. No. Black slaves were brought happily to port by other blacks. Black slaves were brought happily to port by Arabs. And then all they had to do is go to the slaving market, pick up the slaves, put them on the boat, and bring them back. Nobody. You see, it would be a very expensive and dangerous proposition for anybody to all of a sudden, you know, you're getting on a slave ship and you're going to Africa and then you're hunting through the bush and find these villages and try to get them back and create war. That's a dangerous, dangerous gambit. No, these ships pulled up and boom, the slaves were waiting for them. Why? Because slavery was a common thing. It's a common thing. It's a globally common thing. And even today in this world, it's globally common in a lot of parts. Today in Africa, there's a lot of slavery. Did you guys know that? Does that rattle your politically correct brains? Does it? Now here's what's different about the West and the evil white man. Ooh, white privilege. You see, folks, unbeknownst to most people's senses, and unbeknownst to those who've been under the brainwashing, you see, the evil white man decided to do something different. The evil white man and his evil Western culture happened to be the first civilization that started to move against the very concept of slavery. Evil Western civilization and the evil white privileged white man. He's the white devil. He's the white devil. You see, what he did is this. Not only are we going to create laws to end slavery here and fight and die and shed blood to set men free. Not only are we going to do it within our territories, but we're going to actively participate to end slavery worldwide. Do you understand that, folks? See, Western culture isn't perfect, but damn it, it is the best. So an attack on Western, see, you have to understand this for what it is. Let's call a spade a spade. Let's have an adult conversation. When you attack whites, you are attacking Western culture. You are attacking the beautiful concept of representative government. You are attacking the beautiful concept that all men are created equal. You are attacking the beautiful concept of individuality and liberty. That is why the white race has been assailed. South Africa is a case study in it. You know, you read most scholars. Folks. You see, guys, I can go into, it's pretty interesting. When you look at Africa, right, you have what the hell? There's a plane, and I forgot the exact, a line of separation, right? Often in the United States, we talk about the Mason-Dixon waterline, that once you're past the Mason-Dixon waterline, IQs drop. I mean, these are just jokes that people have here in the U.S. that makes people dumb. Same thing in Africa, and I'm trying to find it right now. Let me see here. It is separates. Give me 1 second, folks. Okay, this is important. I just can't remember it. Geez, I need to start taking more fish oils, man. I need to start taking more CBD extract. That's what I need.
More CBD, boost that memory V.
Hell yeah, brother. North and northern and southern Africa. Let me see what comes out here. Ah, there it is. The Great Rift Valley. The Great Rift Valley. Okay. So the Great Rift Valley, folks, is pretty interesting. You have a great swath of harsh desert that separates the northern African countries, where you've seen a great deal of development, advancement, civilization, building, the whole 9 yards. Okay, we're talking about real civilizational structures, grid cities, aqueducts, pyramids. I mean, come on. Okay, that's what you see north of the Great Rift Valley. South of the Great Rift Valley, CJ, is a different story. Okay, it's a different story. This is real talk, real truth. None of this fancy BS fantasy about Afrocentrism and blah 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 blah. None of that BS fantasy talk here. This is real truth. When you start dealing with real truth, then you start dealing with reality. We can start fixing things and making this world a better place. It's just that simple. It's just that simple. In 3,000 years, folks, since the end of the friggin' Stone Age, the majority, the vast, vast, vast majority of indigenous Africa, they could not even manage to create a single piece of infrastructure anywhere. No bridge, no aqueducts, no grid cities, nothing. They couldn't, in fact, succeed in building anything higher than a one-story mud structure. They could not write anything down as a reference of quote-unquote civilization so that future generations could look at it and improve on it and innovate on it. You understand? They couldn't do that. They couldn't. The main reason why they could never, and this is the truth, when you actually study this raw dog, no political biases, just raw dog, how it is, how human development came about, the biggest struggle that you see south of the Great Rift, in the quote unquote, what people call the deepest, darkest Africa, they could not master the art of writing. Okay? I want you to think about this. You see, when the first European appeared in Africa, that was, I believe it was 1652. That was 1,974 years after Ptolemy the First built the incredible, magnificent structure called the Library of Alexandria. Okay? So the first European, when he set foot in deepest, darkest Africa, past the Great Rift Valley, past where it is an absolute tribal wasteland where they're killing each other, slaughtering each other like a bunch of savages. They're still doing it today, most of them. It's racist. Well, I can get away with it because I can say these things, CJ. You know what, CJ? Why could I get away with saying these things?
Oh, I'm not sure why.
I'm not white, so dare call me a racist. Isn't this funny? We are the two brown guys here on the show. We are like probably the biggest defenders of the white race at this point.
God, that just hit me.
That's right. Because someone needs to tell you white folks to get your pride back. I mean, what the heck? Come on. Stop it already. Stop with this kowtowing. All right, here we go. So when the first evil white man from the western evil west set foot in Africa, it was the year 1652. That was damn near 2,000 years, CJ, after Ptolemy built the friggin' Alexandrian library. So the question becomes, 2,000 years from the Alexandrian library to the year 1652, where the first white man was stepped foot. What were the indigenous people doing? Were they building grid cities? Was it like Wakanda? Did they discover vibranium and advance their future technology and whatnot? Did they do that? No. They could do no more than a few rock paintings and a couple of clay pots with some patterns on it. I want you to think about this. Ptolemy I, 2,000 friggin' years ago, builds the Alexandrian library. 1652, the first white dude, the evil white man, pops up in South Africa. What has the southern population over there have been doing? What have they been doing? Have they erected skyscrapers? Have they erected grid cities? Have they built anything similar? Have they built anything beyond one-story building? No. We have rock paintings and a few clay pots, CJ.
Right on.
See, that's the whole entire deal. What people don't understand, a lot of these blacks that are in South Africa have no historical ties to the land. Okay, they have no historical ties to the land. So their idea, because they have no historical ties to the land and they have no real civilizational contribution or achievement, they have nothing as a backdrop against it. So all they can do is give me back this land. It's this false land grab. You see, the fact that the quote-unquote evil white man has built these things is, in and of itself, a threat to them. And that's the context you folks need to understand, because that is the very context in which the Afrikaner, the white African, is demonized as what? A slaver. He's demonized as a murderer. He's demonized as somebody who stole the land. Folks, you got to understand the context of South Africa. When the first whites came to South Africa in 1652, folks, here's the deal. It was uninhabited. Some people say, well, they were just saying that it was uninhabited because, that's a lie. That's just a lie because, that's a myth. You see, when Israel showed up in Palestine and not Israel, but when the Ashkenazi, the European Jews, showed up in Palestine, some of them said it was uninhabited. There was nothing going on there. Well, that's not true. That's a lie. There was a great deal of development in Haifa and Tel Aviv and in Jerusalem. I have pictures going back to what Jerusalem and Haifa and Tel Aviv looked like in 1923. I have the photos. You can't tell me there was nothing going on over there. But to say that when the early settlers said that this land was uninhabited, saying that was a lie because it was inhabited and they were out there slaving and overthrowing the population and blah 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 blah. That's a misconception and a deception. So the question becomes, folks, how do we know that the early settlers in South Africa were telling the truth when they said this land is uninhabited? How do we know that? You see, those early settlers were sent there, a lot of them for the company that they were working for. Okay, the Dutch company that was out there exploring for resources and whatnot. So they wound up in South Africa. How do we know they were telling the truth when they said that the land is uninhabited? Simple. In their writings, when you study their writings, and again, here's the difference between civilized versus uncivilized. Uncivilized, undeveloped people do not keep historical records. They do not keep writings on which the future generations could build upon. Civilized, educated people keep writings and meticulous records. You don't like that statement? Oh well. Oh well. So that when the first Afrikaner got there, we knew it was uninhabited. Why? Because he didn't want to stay there. Did you realize that, folks? The first settlers in South Africa did not want to stay there. There were many petitions given to their various sponsor companies saying, hey, you know what? There's nothing in this land. This land is uninhabited. It requires a lot of work. We don't want to be here. Many of them have made what's the word I'm looking for? They've made requests. They've made requests. Can we be transferred to Amsterdam? How about Germany? Can we go to Germany? Because it was a corporate venture that got them into South Africa to begin with. Many of them repeated applications. Hey, can we go to transfer us to Batavia? Transfer us to Amsterdam? Made by every single one of them. But the few men that did stay there, they decided to make it their homeland. And it became a land that they loved. You know what? We want to make a best life here. It's not that bad. Look at Johannesburg. It's not that bad. Beautiful coastline. We can make something here. We can set up fishing, this, that, and the other. They wanted to develop and they wanted to grow there. And this, how do we know that? Their own writings, their own journals. By men who did not intend to stay and therefore had no reason to lie. They kept writing it down, CJ, over and over and over again. That the Europeans, the early ones there, settled on uninhabited land. That was the major theme. They exchanged their cattle, they've exchanged their farming equipment, the crops, whatever they had with the nomadic indigenous people. But V, you just said it was uninhabited. It is uninhabited because it's uninhabited in the sense that there was nobody there. There was no population there. There was no indigenous population there that have set roots. But you had nomadic tribes that would come in through the area at a certain time and then go out through the area, in and out of the territories over and over and over and over again. Okay? That's how we know it was uninhabited. The corporation, which the company that I forget that these guys worked for, it escapes my mind, folks. So this is why I need to up the CBD dose over here. Now, fast forward to late 1600s, early 1700s. The slave trade is in full swing. It is booming. Right, the slave trade is picking up. It's starting to boom all throughout the rest of the world. It hasn't boomed in America. America's not even discovered yet. I mean, it's discovered, but it's not even it's not even a real, fully functioning. It's just a bunch of colonies at this point. But the slave trade is booming. So the company wanted to import slaves. They wanted to import slaves, and here's the word: we have company people that work for these various European companies. Slave trade is booming. So if they came to a land that was filled with indigenous people, CJ, would you want to import slaves, or would you just take slaves that were already in the land? You would just take slaves that were already in the land because they're freaking there. Might as well take advantage of them, right? But that's not the case. They chose to import slaves. Why did they chose to import slaves? Because the friggin' land was uninhabited. Hello. Because the land was uninhabited, they had to bring in slaves. So because they had to bring in slaves, no indigenous person, quote unquote, in the country of quote unquote South Africa was ever put into slavery. In fact, the slaves were brought in from Madagascar, Ceylon, and East Africa. And those people became the ancestors of an entirely new group, the colored nation of South Africa, who adopted the customs and the culture of who, CJ? The Europeans. Why didn't they adopt the culture of the indigenous people? Because there were no indigenous people there to have their cultures adopted too. Do you get it? So they emulated the cultures of the Europeans. Why? Because they're the only ones there. Nobody saw any sort of indigenous person there because the land was uninhabited. The white South African was a new nation, man. Born in Africa. The nation had its own language called Afrikaans. After Africa, the nation called itself Africa and Afrikaners. And on the 1st of December, 1834, slavery was abolished. 1834. But I will tell you what was happening in the northern borders during the time of the Cape, during the time of the evil white man and Western civilization. You had warring tribes. And people say, well, that was the time that Shaka Zulu came to power. Shaka Kansangoahola, that's the real name of Shaka Zulu, came to power in South Africa. Actually, he was born in late 1700s, I think 1790 or 1787, something like that. He managed to unite through force, murder, and rampage a number of small tribes into what was known as the Zulu Nation. Because most people say, well, South Africa, oh, the Zulus were there. Nobody. No. Shaka went out, conquered, robbed, raped, pillaged, destroyed, slaughtered, genocide, bloodshed, hundreds of smaller tribes, and amalgamated them into what is known as the Zulu Nation, which came to power in 1819. Before that, there was no quote-unquote Zulu people. So the first Zulu Nation that a lot of these people like to talk about came into power 167 years after the white South African, Van Riebeck. 167 years later. So the question becomes, who's expropriating the land here? Folks, if you would read the stories, and let me tell you, people say, well, apartheid in South Africa was terrible. Do you know how many blacks in South Africa would actually like to go back to apartheid? Why? Infant mortality rate was lower, the schools were better hospitals, the whole 9 yards. It is what it is. You don't like it? I mean, these are the facts. This is what it is. The ANC, the African National Communists, took over, and the country went to shit. It went to shit. And now these idiots have convinced the uneducated of the world that this is their land, and the white man, the evil white man, came and took it from them. The amount of farmers that are attacked and murdered is astro-fucking-nomical. You're having genocide happening to people that are so integral to a fucking country's economics that these fucking morons don't even know that they're putting a shotgun and blasting off their head to spite their own nose. That's what these moron South Africans are doing. That's what these idiots, these stupid blacks that are involved in the ANC, and these far left white morons who are supporting the ANC, that's what they're doing in South Africa. South African farmers have been there for 9 and 10 generations. They are feeding the entire friggin' nation. They are a vital and integral part of the economy. They are leaving. Those that could leave are leaving. Others are staying because they believe the land is worth fighting for, because they're there for 8, 9, 10 generations. They're like, no, we're not going anywhere. It's our land. They get it. They understand their history. Why? Because unlike the schmuckety schmucks that are surrounding them, they kept meticulous history, unlike the uncivilized morons in suits, the savages running around in a necktie, because they want to show them the way. Africa's a shithole. Blacks in America have no idea how good they have it here. They really don't. They really don't. And let me tell you something. Blacks in Africa hate you. They hate blacks in America. I remember when a family member of mine, very close to me, went to Operation Restore Hope in Somalia. I remember on the plane, he was telling me, "Yeah, man, dude. I mean, all the black guys. Yeah, we're going back to the motherland. We're going back." As soon as he got off the plane, the Somalis were throwing rocks at them, saying, "Nigger Americans, go home."
Wow. Wow.
They don't like you. Blacks in the Western world, you guys don't understand how blessed you are. It's time you take off the stupid chip on the shoulder and the whole system's racist. Everything's race, race, race. Get off the fucking Democratic politician and welcome to reality. It's ridiculous, man. And I'm sorry for the language, but like I said, I have South African friends, and what is happening in South Africa, it twists my soul to no end. We're seeing genocide here, folks. We're seeing white people wiped out for no freaking reason, simply because of racism. And some idiots out there who are uneducated saying, oh, the whites deserve this for the apartheid. Folks, the white people pulled out. The entire country is going into bedlam and mayhem. Look what happened to Zimbabwe. Former name, Rhodesia. Look what happened to there. White farmers who've been there forever, feeding the entire country, employing the locals. And now there's some in Zimbabwe who are screaming because Mugabe's gone. They're screaming for the white people to return. And a few white farmers have returned to the area where their old farmland is. And what happens? I'm watching YouTube video of a whole bunch of black people running up to the white farmer and hugging them. And the white guy is hugging the black guy. They're both crying and they're so happy. Because they're vital. They're important to each other's economy. They're vital to each other's economies. They need each other. This is what far left politics does. This is the danger of identity politics. It's no different what the South African Congress, the African National Congress is doing. There's no difference between what they were doing and what Hitler was doing. Identity politics is the politics of Nazis and fascists. And that's what you're seeing here in this whole entire South Africa thing. They are going to destroy the country. They don't care. They will destroy the country for the benefits of a few. It is ridiculous. They are constitutionally writing the law to have this egregious injustice done. And now a lot of white farmers there that are in South Africa. I mean, hell, freaking Lauren Southern, man. She done a great report called Farmland. It's going to be out soon. It's a beautiful documentary.
Yeah.
Now they're saying moving is a matter of life and death. And no one wants to talk about this because it's the white guy. Nobody cares. Hey, sorry about that.
Great. No.
Yeah, I dropped off real quick. But I'm saying nobody cares because if this was a colored group that was being slaughtered, then all of a sudden, there's a political thing. Why? It's another way to knock down Western culture even more. We as a people, I don't care what color you are at this point. I don't care what color you are. We rally around Western culture. Why? Because Western culture is the torch on which the flame of sacred liberty burns. Western culture is the torch on which the flame of sacred liberty burns. We rally around Western culture. We protect Western culture. We promote the ideals and the values of Western culture because it is simply the friggin' best in the world. That's what I got to say about that, Siege.
Great breakdown, V.
Yeah, man.
Dropping some truth bombs. Inconvenient truth.
A very inconvenient truth. And on a good note, I mean, Tommy Robinson was released from prison, so I'm happy about that.
Yeah, he won that. That's great. That's awesome.
Absolutely, man. And I'm also happy about the fact that Wells Fargo got fined, I think, $2.9 billion for mortgage fraud again.
Again.
Why do we even need them? Folks, this is the whole entire thing. We have all the rudiments, the accoutrements, the accoutrement that we need in order to not use these big banks anymore. Why don't we just have the balls and not use them? Why don't it is what it is, but we don't need these guys. We need to rally together. We need to form our own quote unquote banks. We need to form our own, transactional means. And with gold, with cryptos, we have a means of doing that. And I'm working my ass off to come out with some sort of a solution that ties it all together. Liquidbase.io is just one of it. It's literally, and I'm working on expanding it and getting the right deals done and getting with the right partners and companies. Where now I'm trying to work out a deal where you have an account with Liquidbase. Hell, man, get you a freaking credit card, debit card. Now you're spending your gold and crypto hoardings. So why do you need a bank now? These are the things we're working on, folks. These are the things we're working on. Anyway, with that being said, I think we covered the gambit of a siege. What else we got?
Yeah, that's it, V. We will be back at 4 p.m. with Cuss with Gus.
Absolutely. And with that being said, we are over and we're out. Take it away, CJ.